Hello, Para here from Team Paradox. Today I'm going to be doing a deck profile for my Beastdown deck. It's a fairly aggressive deck that I think doesn't have enough representation for as good as it can be. So I will give you my version. Here we are. I play 3 Berserk Gorilla, a very aggressive card that can beat over pretty much most of the normal summons, with the exceptions of Zombira and maybe, and Goblin Attack Force. But a very good card, very aggressive. He has to attack, can't be switched to defense mode, otherwise he destroys himself. However, outside of that, it's just something that you want to, especially in a top deck situation for you and your opponent, which this deck wants to push for that situation for both you and them. It allows you to have a good normal summon almost all the time when you have them in your hand. So I also play 3 King Tiger Wanghu. This card is extremely good against goat control or anything that uses scapegoats, such as Reasoning Gate Turbo. It's also actually really good against the more modern burn decks, whereas burn decks used to be more of a lockdown strategy, which some still incorporate Nightmare Wheel and things like that, but a lot of them are using Ojama tokens, and this also automatically destroys those as well. There are many rulings that a lot of people are not aware of with this card. For example, if Tsukiyomi is summoned, Tsukiyomi's effect, like say they summon Tsukiyomi and they target King Tiger, King Tiger's effect still destroys Tsukiyomi. Tsukiyomi's effect still activates because they both happen at activation, or on summon rather. And yeah, it's a very good card. Obviously, if you're playing against warriors, you would side this card out for something else. If it was Chaos Warriors, you would side this out for 3 Kaiku. And at least that's what I would do. So, moving on to Enraged Battle Axe. This card is 1700 attacker. It gives all Beast Warrior and Beast and Winged Beast monsters, including himself, piercing damage. So very good against, once again, goat control, Reasoning Gate, or really just even Chaos Turbo if you really want to push advantage. So if they have goats out, that's pretty much like not having goats out, particularly because it synergizes with Berserk Gorilla and King Tiger as well. Although if King Tiger's on the field, they wouldn't have goats, unless you summon King Tiger afterwards. So 2 Chiron the Mage, or Chiron the Mage. I'm not sure how people pronounce it, but I'll pronounce it Chiron. And this card's good against burn. It's a pretty strong monster at 1800 attack. Its effect is once per turn, you can discard 1 spell card to target 1 spell or trap card your opponent controls and destroy that target. It's important to know that it has to be one that they control, so you can't turn off your own cards if they're annoying you, like Royal Decree or something like that. But you can turn off their Royal Decrees, and you can also turn off Gravity Bind, Level Limit Area B, which is why I say it's good against burn. Because a lot of the burn cards that actually do damage are chainable, most in fact, or pretty much all of them are actually. But the stall cards are obviously free game, so it's a good card. And then I play Warriors in here as well. So that was it for the Beast and Beast Warrior. This is the Warriors. So I play Gearfried the Iron Knight at 3. Very strong card for normal summon. Can't be taken with Snatch Steal. That's essentially it. It also synergizes with another card in this deck, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. So I play 2 DD Assailant. DD Assailant's really good at taking out any problematic monster that's in attack mode, or any monster that chooses to attack over this monster. And when it's destroyed, or when they're destroyed, they also banish itself as well as the monster that destroyed it. So a good searchable warrior, to a good out to any kind of problem that you may have on the field that you can't get over. 1 DD Warrior Lady, 1 Exiled Force, and this is it for the Warriors. So just some really strong attackers and some cards that can toolbox kind of get you out of situations. So, and then I also play 1 Breaker the Magical Warrior for the last monster. just to destroy back row. This deck doesn't really like back row like most aggressive decks. And for the traps, I play 2 Dust Tornado. Once again, just don't like the back row. And then 3 Blast with Chain, which synergizes with Gearfried. Essentially, I normally don't like to play cards that are, at least in aggressive decks, that are codependent upon other cards. I make exception for Gearfried and this because both of them are good on their own. It's not as if they're useless without the other. They're just really, really good when the other is in play. But you can play Blast with Chain to give your monster 500 extra attack points, say if someone is trying to attack over it. And you can destroy their monster if they're trying to attack you, and you activate this because they can't stop their attack. So the number of monsters on the field isn't changing, but you can activate this, and it's kind of like a sucker to armor in that regard. Except for if you have Kaiku, for example, they're trying to attack over it with a Skill Dark Magician, you can activate this and actually get Kaiku's effect off, which is really nice against Chaos and things like that. And the obvious effect that when this is destroyed, it can destroy any card on your opponent's side of the field. So not only can you use this with Gearfried to auto-destroy it, but you can also use this, chain it to one of your monsters when they activate like a Heavy Storm or a Mystical Space Typhoon. So it's really chainable in that kind of regard as long as you have a monster in your field. And then, of course, for the last 3 traps, I play some of the better traps in GOAT format: Torrential Tribute, Ring of Destruction, and Mirror Force. Those are pretty self-explanatory. So for the spells, I play 2 back row removals, Heavy Storm and Mystical Space Typhoon. I play 2 Reinforcement of the Army. Obviously, I have Warriors in here, especially Gearfried you want to be able to get to, because if you have Blast with Chain in your hand, you really would like to get Gearfried. 2 Nobleman of Crossout. 2 Mind Control. As I said, I want this deck to be good against Chaos Turbo and decks of the sort, so Mind Control and Nobleman of Crossout are really good. The only thing I will caution you if you're new at playing this sort of deck and you play against someone who's experienced playing against this is to use these wisely. These can also banish, like you can take a Chaos monster from your opponent and choose to banish itself. You could also use their effect to banish a different monster on the field if it's problematic or something. When you take it, you can also obviously change the battle position, so if they have a face down monster, you can take it, Magician of Faith, flip it up, get its effect so they can't get it, and you get a +1 off of it. Or I guess more so card neutral, you don't really get a +1 because you use this. But it's still really, really good. Obviously, if you're playing against Warriors or something that doesn't play face downs, you would just side this out as well because it wouldn't really be very useful. Really the same as this because you don't play Tsukiyomi or Book of Moon in here. Although I would say Book of Moon's a good, I think it's good to main deck it if you want to. But it's also good on this side as well because it's good to get over things like Jinzo and Thousand Eyes Restrict and things like that. So I play Premature Burial, Snatch Steal, and Smashing Ground. Smashing Ground for getting rid of just anything that's on the field, Thousand Eyes Restrict, Blackluster Soldier, just anything that's really annoying that you want to get rid of. Snatch Steal, obviously a good card. Premature Burial, also a good card. And then the last 3 spells I play, Graceful Charity, Pot of Greed, and Delinquent Duo. So this deck is more about maintaining a field presence than anything else and just kind of overwhelming your opponent. You're not going to maintain hand advantage whatsoever because you have nothing that really searches outside of Rhoda and nothing that really maintains a good hand count. So you just want to push for game as soon as possible. I will say some historical issues with this type of deck is, unlike Warrior, where Warrior has some resiliency, they can come back from a deficit. You can't really come back from a deficit very easily with this sort of deck. You have to make sure you're maintaining control early and that you keep the aggression on. I don't have a side deck prepared for this video, but some suggestions for this type of deck would be to have Trap Dust Shoots, 2 to 3 of them in your side deck so that if you do lose game 1 or even game 2, you can side them in. I don't think you should really use them for going first. I mean, you can, and it certainly can work well, but sometimes it will brick, obviously. It's really good for going first because even just getting 1 and resolving 1, like on the first turn, say, then you get all that hand knowledge, more importantly than just sending a card back, really, is the hand knowledge. And then you know if you can just all out attack them or whatever you need to do, you can plan accordingly. So, because if you know they don't really have an out to your aggression, then you can just be really, really aggressive. And life points are really important in this format. So people can't just, most decks can't just one turn, end you. Some can, obviously, but even those decks, if you get them down, like, say, Cyberstein, if they don't have 5,000 life points, they're not going to be able to use this effect. So, if you're playing this type of deck, 1 Berserk Gorilla and then 1 other monster, and they can no longer use that effect. So just kind of be mindful of that when you're playing it, if you do choose to play it. Feel free to leave down in the description below any kind of suggestions or things that you would do, or if you've made a certain deck profile and you want to leave it down below as well that's similar to this one, please feel free to do so. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the video, and hopefully you enjoy the next videos. Please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you later.